class, here we are talking about infant personality. We're going to start this off with talking about Erik Erikson. He was a theorist who said that there are different stages that we go throughout our entire life. And these stages shape who we are and what our personality is like. And so a lot of this has to do with social interactions and how we relate to other people socially. And so that's why it's here in our personality. So we're going to start here in infancy. And in infancy, we have to think about trust and mistrust. So the thing that we hope that infants will gain is a sense of trust so they can move on into the next section feeling confident, or the next stage of their life feeling very confident, and that they can trust their caregivers and those around them. And when this happens, right, our caregivers are showing us consistency. They are warm and caring, and this really shows that an infant can trust that their needs will be met. An infant might develop mistrust if there's a lot of chaos in the home, or if caregiving isn't that sensitive or consistent. And we'll talk about how that might relate to things like attachment. So, our very early is just thinking about trust and mistrust. So, something that happens, right, is that eventually we're going to move on into the next stage, which is all about autonomy. So, infants at first don't have a sense of self. So, infants are relating to the world almost as if they're not any different from anybody else. We can show you a video here, which I'll make sure you can see, but it's a little video of a young infant starting to look in a mirror for one of the first times. And how do they interact with that mirror? Do they think that it's them, or do they think it's somebody else? And what we find is that infants at first don't recognize that that image in the mirror is them. So if you look at 9 to 12 months old babies, they don't realize that that infant that's in the mirror is actually them. It isn't until about 18 months of age that you start to see the first understanding of this. And we've done this really ingenious thing called the Rouge test. You basically put like lipstick on a baby's nose or rouge, right? And without them knowing. And then you show them the mirror and you see whether or not infants actually will like touch their nose. Once they have a sense of self, they actually will touch their nose and, be like, oh, it's this, or wherever that thing is. So we don't see it very consistently until about 2 years of age, but you start to see that sense of self come online within that time. So if we really think about this, around 18 months is when we see that idea that we are different from other people and we are our own human beings. So that sense of self really comes online. And this is where you start to see a lot of these self-conscious emotions. So things like jealousy or pride, right? So once I get this sense of who I am and I am a me and I'm separate from you, right? That's when I can show that I'm proud of myself for doing something. And you start to see younger babies kind of like, yeah, I can do it, right? And we start to get into the next stage of psychosocial development, which again is our personality development. And Erikson says that sense of independence and autonomy is really important for us. So if we have a sense of independence, we feel like we can do things independently, then we're able to progress into the next stage well. However, there can also be a lot of shame and doubt if we don't feel like we have that autonomy, if we don't feel like we have that independence, right? So, we've heard of the toddlers being the terrible twos. Part of that is that they're trying to express their own independence. And so Erikson says, yeah, you might get some of that terrible twos, but hopefully there will be more autonomy that child has, and that actually helps them to develop their personality. So I'm going to end this one here, and next we'll talk about more of the social world.